sleep. It's been a couple of pretty long days, probably a typical conclusion to a legislative session, I guess. They always get a little hurried at the end. But the good news is I did hear that the House were able to take up the jobs bill and pass it, so the entire state budget is on the governor's desk. Unfortunately, I don't believe they got to the bonding bill, but it wasn't a must-pass bill. But the entire state budget is on its way to the governor. I imagine by the time they all get enrolled and signed all the proper signatures over the next couple days, he'll probably receive the bills.
What about the legacy?
It's not a must-pass bill. I mean, I've said all along that or if we were going to focus on the budget bills, the legacy bill can be taken up. If the governor wants to call a special session to do it, I suppose we can figure out how we'd accomplish that.
Would you want to take up bonding and legacy as a special session?
Oh, my preference would be to take up the bonding. What I don't know is the capital provisions that were in the bonding bill, how time-sensitive they were. I don't believe they all were time-sensitive, but some of them may have been.
Every session has kind of a special feel to it. How would you encapsulate this particular session, especially the last couple of hours here?
In all my years here, this was, I think, the most bipartisan session I've ever seen. There was an incredible amount of bipartisan votes on things, and I think that is reflected by the fact of this is what divided government looks like. And we have a Republican House and a Democratic Senate, and people were in a position where they were forced to work together, and that's why you saw so many bills, more bills I think than I've ever seen, pass with pretty strong bipartisan margins. So I think it's been probably one of the more bipartisan sessions, and probably the most bipartisan session during my time here.
And yet, with a special session looming, does divided government work if we're headed into a special session?
Well, I think it worked fine. I mean, the budget is on the governor's desk, and he's another branch of government, and he's going to make a decision if he wants to sign or veto or let go of legislation that came his way. But the session came to a conclusion like it should have. We passed a 2-year budget, and I think it was fine. I would rather have been quite as hurried at the end, but we waited around a lot today for the House to send us stuff so we could do work. And it's not being critical. It's just that is why last Friday, based on my experience here, I told the Speaker and the Governor this had to get wrapped up, and that is why I sat down with the Speaker and tried to craft a global deal that clearly he wasn't able to reach with the Governor. And I feel very good about the fact that I did that last Friday, because we were able to pass the entire state budget before the constitutional deadline. That would not have happened if we had stayed in the governor's residence for many more minutes, frankly. And it is just the mechanics of all the work that goes into getting the bills assembled so that the legislature can take them up. It takes a lot of time, and you saw it today. I mean, we sat around a long time waiting for the revisor's office to process bills to get them ready for a vote.
Do the House voted on a bill that will veto the education bill? Is that definitely going to happen?
I do not know.
Has he said anything to you? Have you had a conversation?
I have not talked to the governor since I met with him about 2 o'clock, I think yesterday. Days are running together for me, I think yesterday. And I know the Speaker has actually had some conversations. I have not had a conversation with him or his Chief of Staff since then. I've made it pretty clear. If the Speaker had made a decision to send a bill over with some extra money, whether it's pre-K or whatever agreement he reached with the governor, I would have taken it up and passed it tonight. And I know there were some conversations about that between the governor's office and the Speaker this afternoon and into the evening, but apparently they weren't able to reach an agreement on what that might have looked like.
You'll likely go into discussions with the governor again at some point, or negotiations. Do you start from square one, or is there some progress so that you can kind of get a running start on the ed bill I'm talking about, Mr. Leader?
Well, I don't know what he's going to do with it. I did tell him that I thought it was very risky to veto the education bill. There is little I can do. The governor's going to make his own decisions, but I did tell him that he was at some risk. I've gotten to know the Republican majority, and he's at some risk that they're going to start at zero. We have a Republican majority across the road that doesn't believe in spending money. That's why we have $1 billion left on the bottom line.
The House voted on a jobs bill, that nobody read, and the Senate just had a few minutes to read the bill. How do you explain to Minnesotans that sort of last-minute vote on bills that legislators didn't read?
Well, those kind of things happen in the hurried moments, but all of the provisions in the bills are things that members have seen for months here as bills move through the committee process. So there's nothing in there that people hadn't seen. It would be good if it didn't happen that way, but oftentimes it does. But it's not as though they were things in there that hadn't been through the committee process.
Have you had, or do you intend to have any conversations about maybe delaying the takeover of the chambers to give you time to do a quick special session here?
That would be a decision that the Department of Administration would make, but I do believe it will affect the construction schedule as I understand it. I've been to the Grove building down on Mississippi, and where a lot of the construction staging is being done, and where a lot of the furniture out of the Capitol is stored. It's a very big warehouse building, and the construction schedule, the timeline is pasted to the wall, and it takes up about the entire wall. And I've looked at it, and my understanding is from administration is tomorrow the ventilation systems are going to be shut off in the chambers, and that will mean the voting boards will go dark, and then they'll start immediately removing the desks out of the House chamber. And because the House chamber, there is an incredible amount of work to do in there to get it to a level where it can be occupied again by March 8th next year, because the House has apparently made a decision to try and stay in their chamber. I have reached out to them multiple times and asked them to consider setting up their temporary chamber in the new Senate building. It'll be ready. The building's accommodated for that. The design provided for that. And there would be cost savings on the capital renovations on the construction, but they haven't indicated to me that they're willing to take that alternative, but I have encouraged them to consider it.
Mr. Leader, any ideas where, if there's a special session, where you folks would meet? There have been suggestions all the way from a tent to the St. Paul Hotel, I think, at this point.
All I know is the state constitution says we have to meet in the city of St. Paul. So I hope before the governor makes a decision to call a special session, he has asked the Department of Administration to prepare some location so that we're able to do that.
Will you be moving out tomorrow?
I am going to be packing up. We have a schedule set up for all of the Senate members to be moving downtown to the UBS building. The members that are officed in here. I believe my office is actually moving on the 27th or 28th, but they're going to start to move them relatively quickly. The stations for the desks for the legislative assistants are, I believe, already up. We've rented equipment down there so that we could get all of the offices moved. There will be no members' offices down there, probably except for me. But there will be some conference rooms. There will be 6 or 7 offices that members can reserve if they have meetings that they need to conduct. I've tried to absolutely, to a bare bones, minimize the amount of money we're going to spend on swing space to make sure we can maximize the amount of revenue that can be spent on the Capitol and or the new building.
Senator Bakk, how does it feel to say goodbye to your chamber and the building you've called home?
It's a pretty, I've been thinking about it for weeks actually. It's a pretty emotional day, and you think about next session, first one in 111 years that's not being held under this rotunda right here. It's a remarkable time to be a member of the state Senate, to go through all of the renovations, and you can't see it, but in the retiring room, because we don't allow the public in there, right? Or staff. In the retiring room, there's a bronze plaque above one of the fireplaces. It's about 2 feet by 3 feet, and in it are carved the names of the senators, the 63 senators that served in this very first chamber in 1905. And my intent is to have a plaque made to also hang in the other side of the retiring room that will have the names of the 67 senators that are going to come back to this new renovated building in 2017.
by the majority party. I think they had a hard time passing their budget off the floor, and many bills they needed support from our side to get them done. And we still have left a lot of things undone. We left tax relief undone. We left a debate on transportation, and I think it really founded over this commitment that the majority and the governor had to raising the gas tax. And I think that's a debate that is going to continue over the interim and into next year. We've got about $1 billion on the bottom line, and the question is going to be, what are you going to do with that? We spent a lot of money in this budget, and I agree that it was a bipartisan effort. I think we have to applaud the efforts of Senator Bakk and Speaker Dowd. They were able to work together, and they got a bipartisan budget passed. And really would be sad and unfortunate if the governor decides to take it upon himself to throw us into special session by vetoing at least one or maybe more of the provisions in that budget. So I hope that doesn't happen. I think that we've got some important work still to do. I think there is a debate about what we are going to do with the money that's left over on the bottom line. I think we have talked about tax relief. I think we have talked about transportation. So we did get some things done, but there's still a lot left undone.
What should come up in a special session if there is one?
I'm sorry.
How expansive?
How
Yeah,
expansive?
What should you have?
Yeah.
Well, if we're going to have a special session, I am assuming it would be because the governor would veto the education bill, and I suspect that would be the topic. And where I sit, the majority in the House, the majority in the Senate, Democrat, Republican, they had a pretty good agreement. I don't know how it gets better. I think if you put it into special session, I'm not sure what you get, but I don't know how it gets better than the agreement that was provided.
Do you want anything else in there? Bonding, taxes, transportation? Do you want to open up the agenda?
Well, we did pass the bonding bill on the floor. I think it's unfortunate Senator Marty was filibustering their own budget there for a while, and it wasn't able to be taken over to the House to get passed. I think that is an important provision, some flood relief and disaster relief for the state that I think there was, again, bipartisan agreement that needed to get done, but Democrats decided they were going to filibuster the time and run out the clock, and that didn't get done. So I guess if there's a special session, that might have to be taken up and done again. I think there is agreement on that already. I think it wouldn't take much to get that particular bonding bill done.